Picture your last meal with meat on the plate. Chicken, beef, maybe fish. Now ask yourself something strange. When was the last time you ate a lion? Or a wolf? Or an eagle? Never. Not once. Not anywhere on Earth. Not in any culture. Not even in the hungriest of times. That feels normal to you. It shouldn't. Because humans will eat almost anything. Insects, organs, rotten fish buried for months, blood, but predator meat, the meat of the animals that hunt other animals. That's the one line almost nobody crosses. And it's not squeamishness, it's not taste. It's something your body figured out long before science could explain it. Most people assume it's just about danger, too hard to catch, too risky to fight. But that's not the real reason. The real reason is hiding inside the predator's own body, quietly built up over its entire life. And once explorers finally ignored the warning, some of them didn't survive long enough to write it down properly. This is called biomagnification, and once you understand it, you'll never look at a food chain the same way again. So stay till the end, because the last part of this story is about a warning your own ancestors somehow knew, centuries before anyone had a microscope. Let's start with a question. What happens to a toxin that a small fish absorbs from the water? Nothing dramatic, a tiny trace, basically invisible. But here's what's fascinating. That small fish gets eaten by a bigger fish, and that toxin doesn't disappear. It moves into the bigger fish's body and stays there. Then that fish gets eaten by an even bigger one. Every single time the toxin carries forward, it never resets to zero. So what happens at the very top of that chain, at the apex predator? It gets everything. Every trace, from every animal it has ever eaten, stacked on top of each other for its whole life. Scientists call this trophic magnification. The higher up the food chain you go, the more concentrated the poison becomes. A predator isn't just meat. It's a walking archive of every toxin its prey ever touched. And a human eating that predator is eating the final, most concentrated version of all of it. But that's only half the story, because it's not just chemical pollution. It's something built into the predator's biology on purpose. Take the Arctic. Take the polar bear. Imagine you're a European explorer in the freezing dark, hundreds of years ago. Supplies are running low. Someone kills a polar bear. The meat is a lifeline. But the local Arctic hunters warn you about one specific part, the liver. They've known for generations, don't touch it, not even in starvation. You think it's superstition, old folklore, nothing more. So what happened to the ones who ignored it? In 1597, a Dutch crew stranded on a frozen island ate polar bear liver. Within hours, they were violently sick, terrified they were about to die. Centuries later, in 1853, an American explorer wrote about eating bear cub liver, calling the old warning nonsense, right up until he was doubled over with dizziness and sickness of his own. And in the Antarctic, in 1912, 2 explorers were forced to eat their sled dogs' livers to survive after a teammate vanished into a crevasse. Neither man came out of that journey the same. So what killed it? What made that one organ so dangerous? Vitamin A. Not a small amount, an almost unbelievable amount. A single polar bear liver can hold enough vitamin A to poison dozens of people at once. Your own liver is built to store small reserves of it. A polar bear's liver stores it by the millions of units, because the bear eats seals, and seals eat fish, and fish absorbed it from algae, and every step up the chain packed more in. One bite crosses from nutrient into poison. And it isn't only vitamin A. Some researchers point to heavy metals like cadmium building up the exact same way, through the exact same chain. Either theory lands on the same idea. The predator's body is a concentrator, a living storage tank for everything toxic that passed through its prey. But then, science confirmed what history had already been quietly saying for generations. Arctic communities never ran tests in a lab. They didn't know the phrase biomagnification, but they knew the pattern. Eat the liver of the animal at the top, and people get sick or die. So the rule became sacred, passed down, never broken. That's not superstition. That's centuries of trial and error, encoded into a taboo, because writing it down as folklore was easier than writing it down as a chemistry equation. And it might be the strangest part of all. This same warning shows up almost everywhere predators exist, across separate cultures that never spoke to each other, different continents, different centuries, and somehow the same instinct: leave the apex predator alone. So ask yourself, is that really just coincidence? Now here's the part that reframes everything. It isn't only about poison stacking up. It's also about what predator meat actually is once you get past the liver. Prey animals like cows, deer, and rabbits build calm, steady muscle. They rest, they graze, they build soft fat. Predators don't get that luxury. A predator's life is built around bursts of violence, sprinting, fighting, starving for days, then gorging. Every muscle fiber is built for survival stress, not for stillness. Imagine you're the animal chasing dinner across open ground, heart slamming, adrenaline flooding your blood, again and again for years. That stress chemistry doesn't just vanish after the hunt. It settles into lean, tough, tightly wound muscle, meat that's harder to chew, harder to digest, and far less appealing than the soft, fat, marbled meat of an animal that spent its life quietly eating plants. Compare that to your own dinner table today. You don't crave lean, stringy, gamey meat. You crave tenderness, fat, something your body reads as safe, easy calories. Prey animals evolved to hand you exactly that. Predators never did. They weren't built to be eaten. They were built to do the eating. But there's a second danger hiding underneath the toxins and the tough meat, one that's even more personal: disease. Here's a question most people never think to ask. Which animals are biologically closest to you? Not chickens, not cows. Predators. Especially the ones that hunt warm-blooded mammals, just like humans are warm-blooded mammals ourselves. That closeness is exactly what makes their meat riskier. Pathogens that infect a fellow predator, a fellow meat eater, a fellow mammal have an easier path into your own body than pathogens sitting quietly inside a plant-eating prey animal. Add to that the parasites. A predator doesn't just carry the toxins of everything it ate, it also carries the parasites of everything it ate, layered generation after generation, exactly like the toxins. So every bite of predator meat isn't just one animal's risk, it's the risk of an entire food chain, compressed into a single meal. Humans figured this out the hard way, long before anyone understood a single word about pathogens or parasites. People who avoided predator meat simply survived more often than people who didn't. Over thousands of years, that pattern didn't stay a personal choice. It hardened into instinct, into disgust, into taboo. You didn't learn to avoid lion steak from a textbook. You inherited that aversion. It was handed to you by every ancestor who didn't die from ignoring it. So here's the twist most people never expect. You always assumed the reason predators were off the menu was because they were too dangerous to catch. But the real danger was never the claws or the teeth. It was what was already sitting inside them, waiting quietly, long before the hunt even began. Every fish that small fish ate, every seal that bear ate, every year of stress chemistry burned into tightening muscle. Every parasite passed silently up the chain. All of it, concentrated, and handed straight to whoever eats it last. And that's the part that turns back on you, because you are, in a sense, a predator too. You sit near the top of your own food chain. Somewhere out there, a scientist could ask the exact same question about you. What has concentrated inside your body, quietly, invisibly, from everything you've eaten over your entire life? The polar bear never chose to become a walking warning sign. It just lived at the top. You live at the top too. The only difference is you get to choose what climbs up the chain and settles inside you. The bear never had that choice. You still do.